You know how much we love listening to Ray Hadley, still number one in mornings on 2GB, 4BC and stations around the country. And I'm very pleased to say the great man gives us a bit of his time this Monday night. Big fella, we're less than a month to go. Big fella, how rude of me. My apologies. You've put in much more effort to losing weight than I. I am the big fella now. So simply Hall of Famer, Sir, God. Geez, what a smart ass I am. All right, now, so 5 days to go to the New South Wales election. The front page of the paper today and the 6 p.m. news was they're going to build hospitals everywhere. No. They're going to rebuild all the schools. They're going to get rid of the 6,000 demountables. No. They're going to increase by 10 Ks the speed limit in a motorway. Could this be the most boring election you have ever had to sit through?
It is a boring with a capital B election, and I think the result's going to be fairly boring as well, because I don't think there'll be a definitive winner. I don't think next Monday we'll announce that Dominic Perrottet has retained the Premiership or Chris Minns has taken it from him. I think there'll be some horse trading with the crossbenches, and they'll become all powerful, as we've seen previously in the federal government with Oakeshott and Windsor determining the outcome of that election. We might be doing the same thing in New South Wales by the, I guess, mid next week or early next week after the election's determined on Saturday. The bookies have got Labor to form government at $1.13 and the current government, the Perrottet government, at $6 or more. And they're usually pretty right. And when you inquire, it's not first past the post, it's who forms government. And they'll probably form government, the Labor Party, based on the numbers with the crossbenches assistance. So I guess we've got to go through that as we went through it with federal politics some years ago. With the balance of power left with some people, you hope we'll do the right thing, as opposed to the lunatics we had in charge of the asylum back in the days of Kevin Rudd.
And I want everyone to spare a thought for the poor people at the New South Wales Electoral Commission. They will stop counting at 10:30 on election night, and they won't be back on Sunday to count. They'll be back on Monday. It's only the future of the biggest state in the country, but who cares? Got to knock off by 10:30, go for a swim on Sunday. Honestly, okay, I get it. Maybe counting till 2 o'clock in the morning is not a good thing. But how are they not there on Sunday, Ray?
Well, I think you'll find Bunnings were open on Sunday, and Dave Harvey Norman and a whole range of other people, they arrange staff to work on Sundays, and I can't see why the AEC wouldn't do the same thing. I don't think we'll be having on Sky News or the various coverage on our radio network, 9 Radio, an announcement at 10:30 on Saturday night that Chris Minns has claimed the Premiership or Dominic Perrottet has claimed the Premiership. I think we're waiting fair while, even allowing for the AEC having a day off.
Now, TikTok is a Chinese surveillance app. Just have a look at their owners and their terms and conditions. This has been building for months, but finally it looks like the federal government might be about to say anyone who works for it should delete this thing off their phone. What do you reckon? Well,
it's a fait accompli, because it's already been done in the UK, the US and New Zealand, where government agencies can't partake. Now, I know there was some interest. The Home Affairs Minister said, we're not going to take it off politicians, just the bureaucrats. If they're fair dinkum about it, they'd abandon TikTok. Look, I'm not a participant in TikTok. If they're going to take it off the bureaucrats, they should be punishing themselves by taking them off TikTok, because it's a concern. If the UK, USA and New Zealand, God bless them, do it, we should do it as well. I think they will now the report's been tabled for the Home Affairs Minister to look at.
Now, we were talking a bit earlier in the show about what happened in Melbourne on the weekend, this protest that starts with one purpose. People turn up who are neo-Nazis, they get the attention, and then we're having the conversation we've been having today. But in Victoria, they're going to ban the Nazi salute. They've already banned the symbols. You're hearing that the New South Wales Premier is going to do the same?
He's announced that today, and before I came on air with you, I took the liberty of speaking with Chris Minns, the opposition leader. If he's Premier, they'll also ban it. Of course, the symbols and the flags went late last year, and the salute, and no matter who's the Premier come next week, we'll be doing exactly the same thing. The Nazi salute's gone. A couple of buffets at soccer matches recently have conducted themselves in that fashion, and they've been dealt with by the soccer authorities and also the police. There's no room for a Nazi salute in Australia. It's just not part of who we are. It's not part of our ethos. You usually find it sovereign citizens who are a bit loopy to start with, who are involved with this sort of stuff, and they're either Nazi sympathisers, white supremacists, or they don't agree with, government, although they do take Centrelink payments and they have a Medicare card, of course. But, that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Look, before we go any further, I just want to say a couple of things, if I can, because I know you're loath to mention the name Chris Bowen, as you are loath to mention the name Matt Keane.
Thank you.
But let me take you through this. On Friday and Thursday of last week, Chris Bowen announced, despite the fact that we've been told that our electricity prices are going to increase by somewhere between 20 and 24%, or sometimes up to 25%. He took credit for saving us from the former Morrison government because, Paul, what would have happened had he not been the Energy Minister and if Anthony Albanese had not been the Prime Minister? We would have been confronting, shock horror, 50% increases. He saved us 25%, this bloke. The only problem with that is I started to get emails and calls immediately from customers of various electricity suppliers who've already had an increase in one case in northwestern Sydney of 62%, another case of 38%, and a myriad between 38 and 62. So despite the Energy Minister federally telling us he saved us from the peril of 50% increases, in some cases we're already up to 62 and we haven't got to July 1 yet. God only knows what he's going to do July 1 when they're up by 85%.
But this is the type of logic that means when somebody comes back from the shops, they say, oh, Dale, I had to buy it. It was on special. They dropped it by 20%. No, Dylan, that's a marketing trick. Or the blokes who come home from Bunnings saying, oh, Dale, I had to get the pressure washer. It was going to be 50% up, but it was only 30% up this time. But again, these people assume that we are so stupid that we're on the mushroom diet of what they eat and the light that they're fed, that we can't see what they're doing. But we can see it, and more importantly, we can live it. And as you talked about, small business. There was a small business of, I think it was a guy in the inner west of Sydney. His power bill for being a laundromat is $22,000 a month. Like, how do people cope?
Mm. Same thing on the Northern Beaches. I got one from a dry cleaner on the Northern Beaches about the increase in his power bill, which is insurmountable. The only way to solve it is to pass on to his customers, but then he'll have no customers at that dry cleaning outlet on the Northern Beaches. Just one final thing on electricity. I travelled to Goulburn. I know you travel about a lot, and so do I. I travelled to Goulburn on Friday to do my program. We broadcast through GNFM in Goulburn, so I went down to the racetrack with the country championships on. So I'm driving back. And I encounter a bloke in the right-hand lane, the overtaking lane, where it's 110 in a Tesla, doing about 85. There's a stream of traffic behind him, including me. And as I passed the bloke, eventually when he pulled to the middle lane, I thought to myself, now, I had a look at his head as I went past. It was a ponytail with a bit of a piercing. And I thought to myself, now, there's a bloke who thinks he's doing a lot of good. He's driving responsibly and slowly on a 110 freeway at 85. God bless him. Then I thought about the fact that when he got to Sydney eventually, he would charge the car using coal-fired energy from power stations they're all closing down. And I thought, have I gone stark raving mad? Everyone's going out and buying Teslas because they want to be better and use, power because they hate those combustion engines which, are fuel guzzlers and diesel guzzlers and all the rest of it. Does anyone realise, all you people out there that are driving Teslas, they are powered by electricity, which comes from coal-fired power stations like Liddell and Eraring in New South Wales. Spare me the days. Think about that. Think about where the power comes when you plug the car in eventually. It doesn't come from the sun. It doesn't come from the wind. It comes from coal-fired power stations.